All right, a good night, everyone. We are a little bit behind with the Hachzek program. So, Meir Tashem, over the next couple of days, we will endeavor to catch up. So, we're picking up in Perek Gimel, and now we're transferring. We actually began this in the last year a little bit, but let's pick up from here again. The discussion regarding why it is that there is Rasha v'Tovlo. Why is it that sometimes it appears in this world that the wicked, in fact, prosper? So, the Mechaber says as follows: V'Tovas hakel yisparach ala Rasha. So, in order to understand why sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu does in fact visit bracha upon the wicked, and here the Mechaber gives 6 different reasons. Number 1, Yeshitiyah ba'avor tova shekamalo yimaleo lekimala ba'olam hazek kimosh amar mishalim l'sonav espanav lahavido b'tagmo bo rishonim u'mishalim l'son ohi tavan di'inun avrin kadmoi b'chayilav dinas. We did this in last year. So sometimes again, even the wicked person, even the Rasha, has a mitzvah or has a schus. So again, there's every single positive activity or every single ma'aseh mitzvah carries with it reward. So sometimes the HaKadosh Baruch Hu would choose to give the Rasha the reward for his dynamic good activities in this world. That's number 1. Number 2, this is actually very beautiful. Sometimes the HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that the Rasha excuse me that the Rasha is going to have righteous progeny, is going to have righteous children. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the Rasha certain bracha, not for the Rasha, but rather, again, ultimately for the benefit of his righteous offspring. That's number 2. Number 3, sometimes that which appears as a bracha could actually be the source of punishment. And we see this all the time, that something that could look objectively beneficial could sometimes end up being the very undoing of the individual. So that which I think looks like a bracha for the Rasha, in fact, in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is really the punishment for the Rasha. Number 4, sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the Rasha certain bracha in order to give him a window for tshuva. So the bracha is not there to reward him, the bracha is not there for future generations, the bracha is not there for his punishment, just the opposite. The bracha is there to kind of pave the way to allow the Rasha to do tshuva, which is really incredibly beautiful. Number 5, V'yeshetia lechesed shekadam aviv v'hayroi lehetiv l'no ba'avuro kimo she'amar leyehu ben nimshi b'nei revim yeshu lechal kisei yisrael v'aram mishalich v'tumo tzadik asher bara b'acharav. So reason number 5 ultimately is that sometimes the person might be a Rasha, but lamaisa, maybe his father, right? He had an ancestor who did something good, and therefore the Rasha is the beneficiary of the Maisim Tobim, of the good deeds of previous generations. And finally, number 6, V'yesh shetia lenasos anshi atarmis v'hamatzpunim haroim kishem roim zem emarim losra me'avodas haborei v'chashim lisratzos al anshi rash v'lamon maseim. So this is incredibly profound. That sometimes the HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives good things, gives brachas to the Rasha as a test. In other words, that there are some people who unfortunately feign piety, right? They pretend like they're pious, but they do that in order to be able to receive blessing from Hashem. But when they see that the Rasha ultimately again prospers, they'll very quickly switch teams. In other words, if I could be a Rasha and still get all the bracha in the world, then I might as well take advantage of that. So sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu will go ahead and give bracha to the Rasha in order to test the resolve of those who are righteous, to see will they truly maintain their connection, fidelity, relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even when they see that the wicked have the ability to prosper. Incredible. So therefore, again, just to review, so essentially the Mechaber advances 6 different reasons ultimately why the Rasha could encounter bracha in this world. Number 1, because maybe he did some type of previous good deed. Number 2, in order to have it for some type of righteous offspring. Number 3, sometimes the bracha itself becomes the very undoing of the Rasha. Number 4 is in order to kind of keep the window open for tshuva for the Rasha. Number 5, maybe he had an ancestor who did something and therefore the Rasha is benefiting from it. And ultimately, number 6, to test the righteous, to test the tzaddikim, to make sure that they are truly and genuinely pious. Incredible. So the Mechaber goes on. He says, now this is actually an incredible piece as well. He says over here, V'chevon shezbarer chiyuv hagilgo ala sibos b'nei adam. So remember again, now we're going back a little bit. If you remember again, the way this conversation started was an idea that you have to put in ishtadlus, that even if a person has complete bitachon in Hashem, a person has to put in effort in order to acquire bracha in this world. So we kind of got into this because he spoke about the idea then that if you're absolutely pious, you don't have to put in ishtadlus. But then we saw tzaddikim who are absolutely pious but suffer, wicked people who are absolutely wicked but prosper. So now kind of getting back to what we were talking about before, the need for ishtadlus, and specifically the need to put in human effort in a situation of parnasa. So he writes as follows: Kevan she's barachiv agilgul ala sibos al bnei adam nevaer ato ki ein kol adam chayev lechazra kol siba misibos hateref ki asibos rabos. So now this is actually incredible. So now we get into the real kishkas of this question of, so what type of hishtadlus should a person put in this world? What is the right kind of hishtadlus? So one thing is clear, which is a person is not obligated, nor is it the correct approach, to put in every single type of hishtadlus. In other words, there does come a certain point in time, there's this incredible balance. I have to put in effort, but at the same time I also have to have bitachon that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bless my efforts with success. And the way that manifests itself is by putting in the right amount of effort and the right kind of effort. So in the world of effort, in the world of ishtadlus, there's different forms of ishtadlus. Mehen kalosh etarchan ma'at kischore bechanos omuleches yad shetarchan ma'at kitfira kiichui v'asifrus v'itzra hamischarem u'schira asirim po'olim v'ashamashim b'avodas adama. So ultimately, there's different kinds of ishtadlus. There's what the Mechaber calls lighter or easier hishtadlus. He gives examples of this. Someone who sells merchandise in a store, right? Or people who work with their hands. What he really means is not really manual labor. What he's really referring to is sewing or weaving, writing. A person who watches over merchandise. Now really what that's referring to is someone who buys merchandise, holds it till it appreciates, and then sells it, right? There are people who go ahead and oversee sharecroppers, right? Oversee workers. Now these are the people who, they don't do the work themselves, they're the managers. So this the Mechaber calls a relatively easy amount of work. In other words, that a person is not schwitzing and a person is not really excessively toiling. Umehen sibos yesh ban yegiv torach. On the other hand, there's other forms of ishtadlus, and these other forms of ishtadlus are much more labor intensive. He says, for example, ki ibod ha'oros, a person who's a tanner, right? Tanning skins. Someone who mines metals. Or refining silver. Or carrying heavy loads. Or someone who has to always travel for their parnasa. Or someone who actually works the land. So this is really interesting. So again, you have these different types. You have these different types of hishtadlus. So the question becomes, how does a person know which type of hishtadlus to put in when? So that's, of course, the great question. We're going to stop over here for today, but Amirat Hashem, we will continue with this section in terms of figuring out what type of hishtadlus a person should put in. We'll continue with that Amirat Hashem in our next year. Shkayach, everyone. Have a wonderful day and a good night.